one, and this one, and this one, and this one, and this one!
Revenge, payback, vengeance, no matter what you call it, it's when you seek to settle a score with someone who wronged you. Writing a revenge story is an art in of itself. It's a process that has multiple components, all of which are important. And I'm going to give anecdotes of good revenge stories and tips and tricks on writing your own. I do warn you, here be spoilers for all sorts of media, such as the Owl House, which had its finale like 3 days before this recording, so only watch it if you're all caught up or if you don't care about spoilers. Without further ado, let's start.
This one, and 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 this one!
Part 1 of making a good revenge story is to make sure that the revenge is justified. Truth bomb time. Not all problems can be solved by hurting the person who wronged you or someone you care about down and killing them. There needs to be a good reason why the revenge seeker is seeking revenge. Stalking someone with intent to kill them because they stole a few bucks from you is extreme, and you should not do that unless the point is that the protagonist is petty, vindictive, and just looking for an excuse for senseless violence. Also, give a good reason for the protagonist of your revenge story to seek revenge, instead of just turning to the authorities. Like, hey, can you arrest this person who killed my loved ones? One example of that done right would be in Jojo's Bizarre Adventure Part 6 Stone Ocean with Hermes Costello's hunt for sportsbacks. What did Max do? He's a gangster, and 3 years before the story, Hermes ran away from home after an argument with her older sister Gloria. Gloria followed and witnessed Max executing a man. In that situation, she'd usually keep her head down to keep her head on, but Max got a glimpse of Hermes, so Gloria called the cops, hoping to use herself as bait. Max took the bait and killed Gloria, dumping her corpse in the sewers, something that Hermes felt guilty for. So we have a dead sibling who was also Hermes' surrogate mother since their mother died, and Hermes believed it to be her fault, and the only way to make up for that was to bring the man responsible to justice. And when Sports Max saw his day in court, justice wasn't served. Max confessed to grievous bodily harm and tax evasion, and his careful cleaning of the evidence connecting him to Gloria's death meant that he got away with murder. Even if he was to spend 5 years in prison, Hermes knew it wasn't enough. She knew she had to do something, lest he continue to get away with killing more people. Only she knew what Max did, what he took from her, so she proceeded to commit a series of armed robberies, aiming at getting sent to the same prison as Max. And once she was there, she developed her stand kiss and used it to seal the gangster in a sewage pipe. However, it wasn't enough, as Max used his own stand, Limp Bizkit, to resurrect himself as an invisible zombie, as well as some taxidermied creatures and other dead inmates. And he was up for seconds. It's a bit of irony that Sportsback is urged to clean the blood from his hands by leaving no witnesses that let him get away with murder in the first place, put him right where Hermes wanted him. Because if somebody murdered me, instead of trying to murder them back, if somebody murdered me and I brought myself back from the dead, and I knew that they're out for revenge, instead of murdering them, trying to murder them back, I'd, try to stay the fuck away from them. Hermes then killed him for good this time around, let him know why she was doing this. And the best part, and she was using Dio's mixtape. And the best part was that Hermes' vengeance came with no cost. And she acknowledged the fact that it won't bring Gloria back. She didn't get demoralized. Avenging your sister by killing the murderer doesn't immediately make you just as bad as the murderer who killed her for witnessing another murder. It got the group closer to solve the mystery of Poochie's plan and let Hermes' wounds heal. In fact, Hermes is quite similar to the Part 3 ally Jean-Pierre Polnareff. With Polnareff, the evil stand user Jay Gall raped and killed his sister Sherry, but as nobody believed he had two right hands, he could not be prosecuted. Just like Hermes, Polnareff found himself just out of family and with a killer who got away with murdering his sister. So what does he do? Travel world, hunt down Jay Gall, teamed up with the Stardust Crusaders, become the mainstay on the merry band, and eventually succeeding in impaling him on the fence. I would say that when it comes to revenge quests, Hirohiko Araki, the author of Jojo's Bizarre Adventure, created a tried and true format he could afford to repeat. and make the second vengeance quest by Aegis against their sister's murderer better than the first. If you can do one thing right, keep on doing that thing, but make sure to constantly improve upon your craft. And that's how you make revenge justified. Make sure that the target deserved what was coming their way, and that law enforcement alone won't be able to deal with them or will be unwilling to deal with them. The revenge must be over wrongs that can't be undone. For example, a few stolen dollars can be re-earned, but the death is permanent. This leads us into the second part of writing a good revenge story. Make the audience care about the victims, understand the revenge seeker, and despise the perpetrator.
This one, and 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 this one!
Part 2 of writing a good revenge story is to make the audience care about the victims and hate the perpetrator as a result. We need to care about the people who were hurt, even killed by the big bad before we can justify seeking revenge against them. We don't want them to feel like side characters designed just to be thrown away, even when they are getting thrown away. You need to get an emotional reaction from the audience for a revenge story to be worth a read. You need the audience to feel bad about the victim or victims to avenge in their plight that they didn't deserve it, and that the villain makes them furious, outraged, sick with anger. One example of this would be with Demon Slayer. Tanjiro returns home to find his lovable family slaughtered, save for his eldest sister Nezuko, who was turned into a demon. Those events would drive most people mad, but Tanjiro perseveres to cure Nezuko's condition and let his family rest in peace. All the warmth he instilled in his heart did die with him, and knowing how kind and considerate Tanjiro typically is, when he hates you, you fucked up. And who was the person who fucked up by painting his family home red with the blood of its inhabitants? Series antagonist Muzan Kibutsuji. First thing we know, he slaughters innocent family just for shits and giggles. Fuck that guy. Thus, the audience takes on Tanjiro's plight and want Muzan dead for the Komodos. The less something is said, the more it means. So someone like Tanjiro Komodo seeking revenge means a lot more than if he was a naturally vengeful person. Another example of this would be in my work. I established that one in my work, even though it's also projects that my cousin is working on, I've taken it up for her, but she can return to it and work with me on it whenever she wants. One of the protagonists had a girlfriend, and they lived in a kingdom that fell long ago. A death is a tragedy, but a million is a statistic. If a protagonist seeking revenge for a massive tragedy, you got to give them personal stake. Unless it's just that it never affects them or anybody they're close to. They're just a caring and considerate person. You got to give them someone they lost in that tragedy. You got to give them trauma that they're still processing of a tragedy. Thus, I flesh out the Fallen Kingdom as having its own language, laws, locals, and lore. And said protagonist's girlfriend was a crown princess. Before revealing what happened to her, I decided to give her a good amount of personality for her being selfless, kind, and giving. Wanting to help her people in any way she can, but being afraid that no matter what she does, it will never be enough. By making you care about her, I make you care about her lover, as she'd want you to care for her. And when the opportunity for revenge arises, she goes completely postal. And said protagonist is kind, protective. But again, anybody would go postal in her situation, and I'll let you know, if the audience don't care about the victims, they won't get to know the art of revenge, and if they don't want the villain to lose, it won't feel as satisfying.
This one, and 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 this one!
Part 3 of the art of revenge is to make the revenge satisfying. Every good story needs some sort of payoff, including revenge stories. One example of a satisfying revenge moment will be the battle for Hammerrock King at the halfway point of The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. Because it's a video game, instead of watching Link pluck the Hammerrock King or read a detailed description of him doing so, we get to do it ourselves or help him do it. Long story short, on Link's 12th birthday, he's enjoying the day with his little sister Arl and his grandmother, even though he doesn't get the reason why he has to wear the green garb of a hero of time. Then a giant bird, the Helmrock King, swoops in and kidnaps Arrow. Link teams up with a pirate Tetra as they besiege the Forsaken Fortress where the Helmrock King's roost is. However, that fails when Link is inevitably chucked out to sea by the very gargantuan avian that brought him here. Teaming up with a talking boat known as the King of Red Lions, Link seeks a second chance to enter the Forsaken Fortress and free his sister, who's being kept there, so she's someone who just happened to be there at the wrong time in the wrong place, doesn't tell anybody about the Helmrock King's master, Ganondorf's return. When Link returns home, he finds his kindly grandmother sick from both her grandkids, the only family she has left, being gone, neither of them even being in their teens. Not only will the player most likely heal grandma, especially since there's an incentive that it's the only way to get the best healing item in the game, but seeing such a kind character sub like that will further stoke the flames of ire. When Link returns to the Forsaken Fortress, he gets a skull hammer, the only weapon he could use to crack the ornate mask that protects the Helmrock King's vulnerable head. Then, after freeing Arrow and the other girls, the Helmrock King abducted in hope that they were Zelda, holder of the Triforce of Wisdom, Link fights the Helmrock King at a prison that held his sister Flood, climbing up to the rooftops, which is more like it for a massive bird. As you battle the Helmrock King, keeping ahead of his attacks, you must wait until it tries to peck you, then smash its mask and attack its head with anything. What makes the Helmrock King battle from great to legendary is its death animation. As the victory music plays, the Helmrock King ascends, as if trying to fly away, as the spotlights of a Forsaken Fortress shine on the perishing boss before it explodes into black smoke of a death cry. None of the other bosses are as personal as the Helmrock King, so they gave it the most spectacular death animation. Another example would be with the Owl House in the defeat of its overarching antagonist, Emperor Bell/Philip Woodbane. In fact, I'd say the quest to punish Bells for his crimes would be a great case for all three parts. There's making the revenge justified, as he wants to kill all the witches and won't stop until he either succeeds or dies trying. And there's the making you feel bad of a victim and hate the perpetrator, as there's not a single episode where you could escape his pervasive influence, so you always mind what he's done. And so your rage at him keeps boiling higher and higher, and when it's time, he fuses with a Titan himself as a last-ditch effort to wipe out all witchkind. So revenge is not just about punishing him for his past actions, but taking his ability to threaten the boiling isles away for good. Luz, King, the Titan, Eden, Rain, all people who Bells has wronged in one way or another, manipulated, lied to, hurt, work together to stop him. Luz manages to rip Bells free of a Titan's heart in a moment so well animated it looks like it came from the likes of Demon Slayer. It makes perfect sense that Luz, who is effectively a good version of Bells, is the one who thwarts his final gambit. Next, he melts in the boiling rain, while Luz's hat and the blanket Ida, King, and Rain used to keep him safe before the Owl Lady, the witch who's hated him since the start, King and Rain stomp on what's left of him, making sure that unlike last time where the collector threw him against the wall and he apparently died only to turn out to be alive, albeit weakened, and kill Flapjack, he's 100% dead beyond a reasonable doubt. Bellows, Witch Hunter General, utterly defeated, dead. And seeing the witches spend years rebuild as well as recover from the trauma he's inflicted on them for a final farewell until there's a spin-off to the audience, the collector makes the payoff all the sweeter. It makes the victory feel earned. It makes the happy ending feel so earned. It makes me genuinely feel so relieved that the nightmare is over, that the boiling gods that Luz and Amby's future children and the rest of the future generations of witches will inherit will be one that's better than that which their parents grew up on. When it comes time for the acts of revenge to be committed, makes the revenge feel satisfying.
This one, and 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 this one!
Part 4. How to Subvert Revenge. You heard me right. You can subvert a revenge story and still make it good. Perhaps the revenge turns out to be unjustified. Perhaps the person being avenged wouldn't want their legacy to be that, or if they are still alive, They don't want the revenge seeker to get revenge. Perhaps revenge isn't the way. Perhaps the target of revenge is trying to make an earnest attempt to turn over a new leaf. Perhaps it's about forgiveness, or if not, avoiding actively seeking revenge, as it will keep the wheel turning. One example of this would be in Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood when the lovable, nerdy mechanic Winry Rockbell finds out that Scar killed her parents. Winry's so smart and kind, it's hard not to love her, and Scar, he's out for state Alchemist blood for what they did to his people, and he killed Shao Tucker, who deserved it to be honest, and Nina, who is a young child fused to a dog. I wish that they could give Nina a happier fate, like maybe get her defused or something, but still, so is life. It has all the elements. Winry had to live every day of her life with every time she looks in the mirror, she sees her dead mother's eyes staring into hers, and she hears her dead mother's voice whenever she speaks. It's all set up so we think it will be satisfying, but it turns out to not be worth it, as if Winry goes through with it, she would have undone her late parents' last act of kindness. She would have insulted their memory. Thank Truth Edward Elric was there to talk her down, remind her that she's a good person, that she's better than this. And it works for both. Scar eventually gives up revenge, having been spared by the traumatized daughter of the first two people he killed, who he attacked in a blind panic instead of a premeditated vendetta. While Winry doesn't get a gun again, she doesn't forgive Scar, knowing that it's not what her parents would want. After all, you're not obliged to forgive someone who has killed people you care about. And as forgiving as she is, she has her limits. It starts the thesis of the story being about breaking the cycle of revenge, as both Winry and Scar were traumatized by the loss of loved ones during the same war, mere hours apart. This helps with This builds up Full Metal Alchemist's thesis of breaking the cycle of revenge, and that while forgiveness is important, in cases where you can't forgive, it's best not to opt not to get even. Another subversion of revenge will be in Gargoyles. David Xanatos, the local evil genius, he avoids seeking revenge because to him revenge is a sucker's game, and he will never pursue it because he knows that it will cause him more trouble than it's worth. And the one time he sought revenge, he did so reluctantly and lost, proving to him that revenge is a sucker's game. Gargoyles runs with a thesis that revenge is for the stupid. For example, Demonia ruined her life by seeking revenge against humans, forced her to use copious amounts of denial of personal responsibility to function. There are many good ways to subvert revenge, be that forgiveness is more satisfying, or that it will make you just as bad as the people you want revenge on, or be that it's foolish to seek it. If you are to ask me about my philosophy on revenge, it's a last resort. Forgiveness is important, but not everybody deserves forgiveness, and you're not obliged to forgive everybody who traumatized you. Sure, it feels so damn good to seek it, but delegating things usually works. But if you can't delegate, do things for yourself. And if the only way that you can heal is by seeking revenge against those who bring harm to you and those you care about, if that is necessary to stop the offender from causing you more harm, be careful not to allow yourself to be demoralized by revenge.
This one, and 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 this one!
And that concludes my essay on how to write revenge stories and how to subvert revenge stories. If there are revenge stories you want to talk about, tell me what they are and how they are good revenge stories. Same with subverted revenge stories. Anyways, please remember to like, subscribe, and share for more content. I hope to see you around. Tyson out, but not for revenge.